Hello and welcome to another segment of Halftime on the Hudson. We got some good stuff for you today. We got breaking news. Jeff Van Gundy, new head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans. We, of course, got to talk about the World Series, right? Dodgers versus Rays. It's a good one. And Tua was named the starter already. I don't know how to feel about that, to be honest. We're going to get into that. Got another segment of Prove Your Point. And we got a member from Marist Center Field on again to just give us the info of what's going on with Marist and Marist Sports, all things Marist Sports. You know how it is, the usual. So all that and more on today's episode of Halftime on the Hudson. As I said, welcome back to another segment of Halftime on the Hudson. I'm Connor Kurpat.
And I'm Alexa Monaco.
And let's get right into things.
To start off, we have some breaking news. Jeff Van Gundy was hired as head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans. He signed a 4-year deal. In 2009, he made it to the finals with the Orlando Magic and reached the playoffs in 7 out of 8 seasons. However, in recent years, he struggled. During his tenure with the Detroit Pistons, he earned 152 wins and 176 losses in 4 seasons, only making it to the playoffs once. Can he make a team out of Zion Williamson, Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon Ingram?
You know what? Honestly, it depends on the type of Jeff Van Gundy we get. Are we going to get the Jeff Van Gundy from that 2009 era when he made it to the finals, or are we going to get the Jeff Van Gundy that we got when he was the coach of the Pistons? Hopefully, we get the one that came from the Magic, because if we do, this team can be something really special. I mean, they have Zion Williamson, an absolute stud out of Duke. It's like crack cocaine for ESPN. They just love him. They can't get enough of him. When he does something, when he makes some kind of play, they have to put him in the highlights. They got to report on it. But even though he gets blown up a lot, he is going to be a fantastic player, as long as he can stay healthy. They have Lonzo Ball, another great young player. I mean, a lot of people know Lonzo Ball because of his dad and the type of drama that he caused. But Lonzo Ball is a great passer. Maybe not the best scorer, but a good passer. Brandon Ingram, who I like a lot, he's a great shooter. He's a very good offensive weapon for this team. Then you got guys like Drew Holiday and J.J. Redick, veteran leadership. So if Jeff Van Gundy can find a way to kind of bottle that and package that all together, this could be a really, really good team, I think. So let's get into baseball.
Yeah. So the LA Dodgers take Game 1. Clayton Kershaw dominated in that game. He only gave up 1 run and 2 hits over 6 innings. As if his night couldn't get any better, Kershaw passed John Smoltz to achieve 200 postseason strikeouts, which made him the second pitcher to do so.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in perspective, Justin Verlander has more than him by 5, and Justin Verlander is one of the best of all time. He has 205. So if Clayton Kershaw can somehow, either in the rest of his career or maybe even in this World Series, if he can get 5 to 6 more, he is already in elite company, but I think this really put him above. I mean, that win that he had the other night was huge for him because he's always struggled in the playoffs, but to kind of get over that hump, especially in a Game 1 of the World Series against a team like the Rays, is huge for him. So props to him. I'm really happy for him. Now to talk about the bats of the team and the offense that the Dodgers had in that game. I mean, things really started off well when Cody Bellinger had that 2-run home run in the 4th inning, and then Mookie Betts kind of just took it from there. I mean, he ignited the offense in the 5th inning, a 4-run 5th inning. He did absolutely fantastic. And there's a lot of pressure on Tyler Glasnow as well from the Rays, pitcher from the Rays, who they kind of took advantage of in those innings. I mean, he started off strong, but he really did have a rough night. And it's left a lot of people to question, why would you start Tyler Glasnow when you have a Cy Young Award winner like Blake Snell as part of your pitching rotation? I mean, it's something that I definitely questioned. I didn't know what to think about it. I mean, Tyler Glasnow has been playing very well. Look at him against the Yankees, he did well. Look at him against the Astros, he did well. He throws heat. He throws it a little funky, a little hard to read. He's good, but is he good enough to start in a Game 1 of the World Series when you have a Cy Young Award winner? I don't know about that. It didn't work out well for the Rays. Maybe they'll be able to clean it up. I mean, they got Blake Snell for the rest of the series now. They can play him however they want. So we'll just have to see how it goes.
Right. So, Connor, how do you think the Yankees can improve for next season? I mean, they were up and down all season this year. They ended their season with a 5-0 loss to the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real up and down year for the Yankees, right? They've struggled a lot. I think what a lot of people want to point out and want to criticize is the pitching. The Yankees really don't have a solid number 2 pitcher. Sure, they have Masahiro Tanaka, who's good. I like him a lot. I like his personality and the type of guy that he is, but he's really not a solid enough number 2 because he's not consistent enough. I mean, they also have Jordan Montgomery and Davy Garcia, 2 young, good guys, but for the most part, they don't really have that solid number 2. They can go out and get one in Trevor Bauer. Then you look at relief pitching as well. I mean, they have Chad Green and they have Tommy Kahnle, who they didn't have all season because of Tommy John surgery, so that's definitely a big hole that they might want to try to fill. When it comes to closer, I mean, Aroldis Chapman's the guy. They put him in the 7th. That's why they basically lost that game. He can't pitch more than a 9th inning. He's a 9th inning pitcher, and that's about it. But really, for me, what I think is the biggest problem with this Yankees team is not the pitching problems. It's the batting consistency. They can't hit consistently. You have one game where they'll hit, 10 runs in one game, and everybody hypes them up and say, this is one of the best offenses in the MLB. And then the next game, they can't put any runs on the board. It's so inconsistent, and we saw it in the series against the Rays. I mean, they played well in the first game. They played decently well in Game 4, but when it came to Game 5, they lost by 1 run. You can't be a team that makes it to the World Series if you can't overcome a 1-run deficit. It's as simple as that. So if the Yankees can find a way to maybe clean up this whole batting inconsistency issue in the offseason, I don't know if it's with getting another batter or getting a hitting coach, maybe that can improve them. I don't know, but if they can find a way to do that, then their problems will be a lot more fixed. But that's really what they have to address. So why don't we jump on over to football? Because I understand a lot of stuff has happened recently in football. So what's going
definitely. Tua was named Dolphins starters. Do you think this is surprising or is it a risk?
Listen, I'm going to be honest. I think it's both. It's super surprising. I didn't think Tua was going to start till next year. And is this a risk? Yes, because, I mean, he had that horrible hip injury. If he injures it again in a season where it's kind of a waste to have him start at all, because the Dolphins maybe are going to make a wild card. They probably won't even do that. But to have him start in a season like this where the team isn't gunning for the playoffs and gunning for a Super Bowl win, you're kind of just having him take damage and take shots for no reason. I think the smart play would have been to save him till next year and kept Ryan Fitzpatrick the starter, who has been doing well. I mean, his 7 picks are concerning that he's had so far. He has had 7 picks. That is a problem. But he's had 10 touchdowns, not bad, over 1,500 yards passing, a 94 QBR rating, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns. So he's been moving the ball all over the place, and he's gotten the team to 3 wins. He also almost beat the Buffalo Bills, who's one of the best teams in the league, came close to beating the Patriots. So I really don't understand this move at all, to be completely honest with you. I just feel like they should have saved Tua for at least 1 more year to save him from that injury. Mm-hmm. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
And now Dak Prescott is injured. He's out for the season with a devastating ankle injury. What does this mean for the Cowboys?
Listen, I think what it means is that the Cowboys are in trouble, and they're in trouble losing the division. They have Andy Dalton, who I think is a decent enough quarterback that he can start for you in a situation like this. But I think the real problem is the coaching. It's not even the players in these scenarios, because there was a lot of times the other night where I saw Andy Dalton kind of like flip the ball, make a play out of nothing. And his team, first of all, didn't make the plays. Zeke didn't really do much. But coaching is really the issue here. I feel like the Cowboys all year haven't game planned well enough. Between the defense suffering, the defense is Swiss cheese, if we're being completely honest. And the offense has had its own struggles. It's not up to Andy Dalton. He shouldn't be expected to carry the weight of the whole team when the coaches aren't game planning correctly. Mike McCarthy even said in an interview the other day that when he got the job and he talked to Jerry Jones, got interviewed, he said he watched every single piece of tape that the Cowboys had last year. And he openly admitted that he lied about that, and he just did it just to get the job. So, yeah, I think the real problem here is the coaching. And if they can't fix the coaching and they can't kind of clean up that defense, it's not all on Andy Dalton. They really have to clean up that defense and what's going on with the coaches. But if they can do that, maybe they can claw back in. But honestly, it's not looking good for Dallas.
All right. Do you think they can still make it out of the NFC East over the Eagles?
Like I said, I think it's all about the coaching. And the Eagles really are not great either. So I actually think between the Cowboys and the Eagles, it's going to be whoever's last place. Like either the Eagles are going to be last. Actually, what am I saying? Because the Giants are terrible. The Washington football team is terrible. This division is just a dumpster fire. So it's whatever team could be the least worst is going to win. And that's a weird way of putting it, but that's really how it is with this horrible, horrible division. So that's pretty much all we had for today. That's basically the big news that's been happening. Thank you so much for being on here for the general news breakdown. Alexa, thank you so much for joining me on this show and being here for the news breakdown. You did a great job.
Thank you.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump on over to our contestants of Prove Your Point. Let's send it over. Hello and welcome to another segment of Prove Your Point. Super excited for this one today. We got Jeff Drajan and Nick Vete, newcomer Nick Vete. Jeff, how you feeling today? You were on the show last time, but you didn't contend. Now you're the contender.
I'm feeling great. I think I got a couple points to prove. I think this is going to be a good segment.
And Nick, how about you? Newcomer coming in.
I'm looking forward to talking some sports, see what I can bring to the table here. So we're going to get after it.
Let's get after it then.
I love the sound of that.
So, for those of you who don't know, the way that this game works is there's 3 rounds. It's best of 2, whoever wins 2 first. Each contestant is presented with 1 question, and they each have to prove their point on their side of the argument. So, I guess we're going to get right into things. Let me get my timer ready here. We're going to start with you, Nick. Since you're the newcomer, you're the newbie, you're the new fish.
Ready to go.
Let's get right in. Nick, tell me, who is the better duo? LeBron and Anthony Davis or Kobe and Shaq?
If this was a question of which duo was more successful, it's obviously Kobe and Shaq at this point. But for who's better, it's LeBron and AD. Both guys are on top of their game right now. You could argue they were the best and second best player in the league this year, either way. And also, the stats are very comparable between the 2 duos. Kobe and Shaq, in the 3 seasons that they won their 3 titles together, Shaq was marginally better than AD in AD's championship season this year stat-wise, but Kobe was lesser of LeBron in assists and rebounds per game in those seasons compared to this year. And also, there was only 1 season of those 3 championships that Kobe had better points per points per game margin than LeBron James did this season. You also look at the rosters that AD and LeBron were working with, and it was also they had to carry their teams through the playoffs without Rondo for parts of the series. Avery Bradley was not there, and you also have to bring up the coaching. Frank Vogel is not the same as Phil Jackson was. Phil Jackson was a big help to Kobe and Shaq in those championships compared to Frank Vogel.
Good job, sir. I like that argument. First time argument. That was a good impression. Jeff, it's your turn now. Are you ready? Go ahead.
I am ready. I'm going to quote the great Stephen A. Smith. This is blasphemous. We're even having this debate, to be honest. Kobe and Shaq, they're better in every single way. They're the better duo. If we're talking 5-on-5, or if we're talking a pickup game on a court at 2v2, they won a 3-peat 2000, 2001, and 2002. They've been to 4 finals. They went to 2004, winning 3 of those 4. They're 2 top 10 players of all time. And now I respect the King's greatness. He's probably a top 2 player, top 3, depending on your list. Are you willing to bet that AD is going to be a top 10 player as well? LeBron averaged 29.8 points per game, AD 25 in the 2020 finals this year. Kobe averaged 26.8 points per game. Shaq averaged 36.2 points per game in their 2002 finals. I mean, it's crazy. Shaq is arguably the most dominant player of all time and would absolutely bully Anthony Davis. It's not even close. Now, let's say the Kobe and LeBron debate. LeBron would have his hands full with Kobe.
Jeff, I'm sorry, but that's your time. And
Kobe
you
and
gave me a
Shaq.
very good argument.
Kobe and Shaq.
You're lucky because in this show, we don't penalize for going over the time.
Thank you.
Your point was very good, and your point was very good. What I love most is that you guys gave me the stats, and I'm kind of a stat guy myself. I love the stats, but the hardest thing to think about here is to go with youth or the history.
They're proven. They're proven. That's the thing. They need to prove.
Now, you know what?
If
If this was a debate over who is going to be better, I might go with LeBron and AD. But as of right now, who is better at this moment in time, I'm going to have to go with Kobe and Shaq. Jeff, good job. You took this first round.
I respect it.
It was good stuff.
It's hard to argue with their greatness. I think LeBron and AD will give them a run for their money going forward.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I think they have a chance to possibly be better, to be honest. AD is just getting in his prime.
You know what? I respect the King and AD and what they've done this year. And you know, it was a tough championship to win in the bubble this 2020 season. So I definitely respect their greatness.
As do I. As do I. So get ready for your next question now. Jeff, you can take this one. I mean, you won the round, but you get this first dibs.
For sure.
Who has the best shot to dethrone the almighty Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid out of all the teams in the AFC kick it away.
You ready for this? I'm going with none other than the Tennessee Titans. And let me tell you why. They have an unblemished record right now. 5-0. Derrick Henry, best running back in the NFL. Absolutely manhandled Josh Norman. Would you want to get in this guy's way? It's embarrassing, defenses that go up against him. Tannehill on fire. I'm saying he's a top 10 QB right now. Coming off of one of his best seasons ever in 2019. He's scorching hot, 12-3 as a Titans starter. Their offense ranks 4th in efficiency. And head coach Mike Vrabel has been a great coach for the team. Even look at what he did last week with that controversial, intentional 12-man on the field penalty. I think it's great, and a good coach is solid and integral to the success of a good team. They made a deep run last year, beating the Ravens. Only lost to the Chiefs by 11 points, 35-24. I definitely think they can do it again and make a run. They play the Steelers next week, and I think that's going to be a good indicator of how far they can actually go and if they get another shot at the Chiefs. Other than the Colts, I don't see them as having too much of a threat in the AFC South.
I'm going to have to cut you off again. I'm sorry about that.
It's all good.
Was that the end?
That was the end.
Okay, good.
We're good.
I like your argument about the Steelers. That's a good point.
It's a good indicator. We'll
I have
see.
to say that too, Jeff. You brought up an interesting point about the Steelers. I'm going to be talking about that in a few seconds.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, you know what, Nick? Take it away since you want to.
The Steelers' defense is just as potent as last season. They may not be getting the same amount of turnovers as last season, but their defense, only 7 points against the Browns did they give up. A few weeks prior against the Texans, no points allowed in the second half. Right now, they rank first in 12 defensive categories and third in top 3 in 25 defensive categories. And their offense, it is a complete effort by everybody on the offense, whether it's breakout rookie Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, James Washington. They have so many guys getting after it on offense. James Conner is right now in the top 15 in rush yards in the NFL. The offensive line isn't even healthy, and they're still playing great right now. And then you can bring up Ben Roethlisberger. Look at what he's doing this season. He's playing with a chip on his shoulder after last year's injury. He's coming back, only 1 interception thus far in the season. He's playing great in the system. They're not making him take as many shots downfield. He's taking what the defense is giving him. They've looked great so far. He's also the only quarterback in the entire AFC that's ever won a Super Bowl aside from Patrick Mahomes.
And you hit 1 minute on the button. I appreciate that. That's timely, unlike this guy over here.
I'm trying. I'm trying my best.
So, again, I mean, you guys gave me a lot to think about. I do love me some Titans, and I love me some Mike Vrabel.
You got to.
Listen, but I'm not done. He's great. I love his talent. I love that controversial call he made the other day. I think that was absolutely genius. That was big brain.
He's learning from Big Bill Belichick.
He is learning from Big Bill Belichick. That was some big brain stuff that he gave. But, man, they had their shot last year in the playoffs. And my problem with the Titans is their pass rush. Their pass rush really concerns me. I really don't know how to feel about it. Some days it's good, some days it's not. Whereas the Steelers, on the other hand, man, this defense. The Steel Curtain has returned. The Steel Curtain has returned.
They can play. Those guys can play.
They can play. So you know what? Nick, I'm going to give you this round. Good job.
Hey, thank you, and we'll hopefully get to settle it this weekend between those two teams.
I think that'll be a great indicator.
It'll be a good indicator for what's to come the rest of the season.
I agree 100%.
It will. And look at this. We got a tie, 1-1. We're going to round 3.
That's what we live for.
It's what we live for. That's what the show is meant for. Nick, you're going to take this one away. You're going to start since you started this whole thing, this whole segment here. Tell me, which team do you see going the distance in the NFC? Who do you think? Who's your favorite? Who's your pick? What's going on?
Right now, I have the Seattle Seahawks. We all know how absurd Russell Wilson is playing right now. If the season were to end today, he would be the NFL MVP. I know there's concerns about the defense. The defensive line, in my opinion, has played better than I expected. Right now, they've allowed the 7th fewest yards against the rush to this point in the NFL season. If they can get after the quarterback a little more frequently, I think that front 7 is only going to progress. And you have to take into account their secondary on the defense hasn't been as good to this point, but they have been playing a lot without Jamal Adams. If he can get back healthy and this defense can play as a unit together going forward, I think the sky is the limit for how much they can progress from where they already are, which is a 5-0 team at this point. If they can get better on defense with Pete Carroll still at the helm in Seattle and Russell Wilson playing the way he is, I think right now the playoffs is an absolute lock, and I think they can contend with anyone that's in the NFC to come out of that conference.
Good stuff. You gave your point well, and you did it in a good time. And let me tell you what, them Seahawks look like a ferocious team. And you mentioned the pass rush and getting back Jamal Adams. If they get back Jamal Adams, that's going to help the pass rush for sure. You saw him. He had that sack like the first game that he played for them. Great argument. Jeff, let's see if you can compare, man. Can you?
I can, and to be honest, I think that's a little bit of a safe bet. I'm going to give you a hot take. Chicago Bears. How does that sound? Maybe biased because I'm a Chicago fan, but let me tell you why. Nobody thought they would be here atop of the NFC. At 5-1, now you can make the argument the Seahawks are undefeated, but they're coming off of a bye. The Bears are 5-1 going into Week 7. They're a top 5 defense in the league, led by Khalil Mack, Roquan Smith, Akeem Hicks. They're doing great right now, and Nick Foles is doing what he does best, stepping in for the bench Trubisky. He's taking the reins, winning football games. To be honest, I'm getting flashbacks to 17, when Foles won a chip with the Eagles. They're 3-0 on the road, recently defeated a Buccaneers team led by Tom Brady, arguably the GOAT. I think that's a good sign, and let's not forget this 2018. Back in 2018, the Bears were a 12-5 team, and they had a chance to beat the Eagles, and you have the double doink, missed field goal. But that was a serious team, and offense wins games, defense wins championships. It's also reminded me of the 86 Bears, led by Ditka. And that huge defense, they have a chip on their shoulder, underdogs, something to prove. I think they're going to win.
I'll let you have an extra few seconds there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know what? I get too carried away because I care too much.
I gotta ask you first. Do you think Russell Wilson right now is afraid of the Bears defense? Because I don't think he is the way that he's playing.
I think he is. Would you be scared of 52 running at you?
I think you'd be a little scared, but I don't think that Nick Foles is going to be able to compete if this defense gets Jamal Adams back and they can up their ante a little bit on that side of the ball.
What I'm going to say is this, that the Bears defense always pulls through, and the problem the Bears have had historically is the offense could not produce when the defense put the offense in a place to score. Trubisky couldn't do it. But now with Foles, he is scoring, and he's capitalizing on those opportunities that the Bears defense is giving them, and I think that's a really good sign.
We'll see if their defense can pull through more than Wilson can.
We will see. We will see.
So I have
You got a lot to think about.
very hard decision to make here. First of all, we have the safe bet and the bet that I like, which is the Seahawks. I mean, the Seahawks are incredible. Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is the MVP. All right. He's unbelievable, right?
He's at least going to get a vote.
Oh, he's going to get a lot, I think. He's unbelievable. And I mean, listen, my thought on Russell Wilson has always been for years that he's done stuff that Patrick Mahomes has always done. I mean, Russell Wilson has done it first and has done it 1,000 times, yet Patrick Mahomes is the one who gets all the attention for it. So I love me some Russell Wilson. Jamal Adams is a hammer in the back, but talk to me about these Bears. And when you said the Bears, first thought that popped into my mind is, why is the guy on the show? Why is this guy on the show? As you said before, blasphemous, but you know what? You proved your point. You did a great job with that. Wait, whoa. I don't know if I made my decision yet. I'm still talking here. I'm still talking. Don't get too nervous.
You're pulling us back and forth here,
I know.
Connor.
I'm just.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
It is an emotional roller coaster.
It
is. It is. But let me tell you what. Your argument with the Bears is pretty good. You know, they got Nick Foles now. Nick Foles, we know what he did in Philadelphia, right?
We do.
That defense is very talented with, big man Khalil Mack running it. Roquan Smith's a stud, right? But, man.
Take a risk.
You know what? My whole life, I've never been a man of risk, and I think it's going to stay that way. I think I'm going to take the Seahawks.
Fair enough.
And you know what? I do love your argument, but I'm going to have to give it to the Seahawks just because I think they're probably going to make a run for the Super Bowl this year. And the Bears, I don't know if they're ready to do that quite yet, but they're close. So I will give you that. They're close. Nick, what do you got to say for yourself? Any closing statements?
Hey, I'm happy. I'm glad we were able to talk sports. Jeff, it was great talking with you, going back and forth. I'd love to do it again sometime. So
I would.
You guys did a fantastic job, and I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see this rematch in the future. This has the makings of being, McGregor versus Diaz type of rivalry, something along those lines, and I think it can be. So I'm excited because you guys both gave me a lot to think about, and that last one was really hard to come to. Guys, thanks for being on Prove Your Point. You both did a great job. And now it's time to kick it over and bring on Zach Musso from Marist Center Field to talk about Marist sports. Let's bring him on. So now I'm joined by Zach Musso from Marist Center Field to break down what's been going on with Marist sports and what Center Field's been covering. So tell me about Joe Osanio, right? From what I understand, you said he's a Renegade coach for the Hudson Valley Renegades.
So
right?
he was a former Major League Baseball player and currently, Joe Asanio is the Mariners softball coach, and he also works for the Hudson Valley Renegades. He's their director of baseball operations now. He's one of those stories where he started from the bottom with the Hudson Valley Renegades, and he rose all the way to the top. He started as the vendor selling hot dogs, and now he's here he's here as the baseball director. And now Joe Asanio is the Mariners softball coach. So the MAC tournament, which Mariners plays in for softball, he runs Dutchess Stadium, and that's where MAC tournament is held. And one day, the athletic director here at Mariners, Tim Murray, approached him and said, we'd be interested in you being an assistant coach because he has a professional baseball pedigree. And he said, sure. And 2 years later, in 2009, he became head coach of Mariners softball. And last year, 2019 rather, they were 16-4 in MAC conference play and 35-22 overall. And last year they got off to a promising 10-9 start before the season obviously shut down to COVID. And he doesn't know what's in store for this season, but he said that if this season is going on, they're ready and their softball team is in full force for the year. So he's excited.
Wow, that's super interesting. What a story that is.
Yeah,
man. Wow, that's crazy. And now you kind of got me interested. I'm gonna have to look out for this Mariners softball team.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what they're gonna maybe put on, as long as we have a season.
Right. Yeah. He's not so sure, right? Because it's way too early to tell. But
sure.
he's hoping they have a season, and he's ready for them to be right in there. The big highlight of him too is if you look him up, you'll find that he had 41 relief appearances as a pitcher for the New York Yankees.
Ah, fun. So we have a former Yankee.
We do. He's a former Yankee and Met, so he's very New York connected.
What? I didn't even know. You're giving me information I wish I knew.
Yeah.
A former Yankee.
I know.
Met on
Yeah.
campus. That's some really, really cool stuff. I'm going to be looking forward to looking out for this team now. As I said, as long as the spring season plays, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So tell me, is there anything else going on?
Yeah. So
what's going on?
right now, this afternoon, we had Trey Wingo, who's formerly of ESPN. He just left the company, speak to the Mariners students in a Zoom panel today. And Wingo brought up all of his favorite experiences covering different events at ESPN. He's obviously the anchor of the NFL draft coverage for many years. And he was telling us various stories about his career as a sports communication guy. And my favorite story from him so far is that right around the time in 2008, or I think it was when the NFL draft came out for Reggie Bush, the story broke about how he took some money on the side while he was in college at USC. And Trey Wingo wanted to ask him a question about it, and he didn't want the question to be asked, and his agent was very mad with ESPN and Wingo on the side of questioning. So a couple years later, in Super Bowl week in Miami, when the Colts were taking on the Bears, Trey Wingo was approached again by Reggie Bush, and they were doing an interview. And 5 minutes before NFL Live, which Trey Wingo was the host of that week, broke, he found out another story, and it was Reggie Bush took more money. And so he approached Reggie Bush, and he said, listen, dude, I got to ask you this question on air. And Reggie Bush said no and walked off and didn't get an interview. And then that was when Reggie Bush was playing for the Saints. So Drew Brees came up to Trey Wingo and was like, dude, why'd you have to ask that? And Trey Wingo was like, well, I'm a journalist. I have to ask the hard questions. And so the great takeaway from him was you got to just dig down deep and keep persevering there, and you can't let the tough questions, because he said he's made great friends with coaches, especially John Gruden, because they did NFL coverage together forever before Gruden went back to the Raiders. But you got to find that line of demarcation between like friends and colleagues and professional.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great lesson to learn for a lot of young journalists coming up, because you have to learn that not everybody's going to be okay with the questions you ask.
No doubt.
You're not going to be okay with the stories that you're proposing or the stories that you're writing. But that's just part of the job, and
you have to ask the heavy-hitting questions.
You have to ask the heavy-hitting questions, right? You have to tell the story. That's just your responsibility as a journalist and your job. And I don't want to say it's doing your job and to be cliche, but that's what it is. You're doing your job. You're trying to inform people on things that they should know. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, he was also telling us about, so the times have obviously changed a little bit, but when he first started working in TV, he went out of college and he went straight to working in Binghamton, New York as just a TV host. And he said that they had no teleprompter back then, so he used to have to memorize everything before the show started. And so he talked about his little rise from Binghamton, the smaller market, into a higher market, St. Louis, which he said was fun because now he was actually calling professional sports games rather than lugging his camera around high school sports games. And then he eventually obviously rose his way up to ESPN and was with the company for 23 years and just left. And it was cool to hear because he has radio and television experience. So it was a great webinar for young journalists.
That's awesome. And I can't even imagine that when he said about the teleprompter and like looking around that equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, we even have
Yeah, we're looking
teleprompters
right at
now here.
teleprompter now. Yeah.
Right. And to think that we'd have to sit here and go through this whole show.
Oh,
He said
yeah.
he did it live.
He said he did it live, but he said that definitely made him a better journalist because
yeah.
you got to memorize all this stuff in advance and you're kind of just spitballing, but you don't want to just spitball the whole time because you're not going to have viewers. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see the contrast of what we got now. And he definitely said, obviously, it's a competitive industry, but we have a lot more platforms, right? You got all the social media streaming platforms, so there's a lot more opportunities out there today.
For sure. I mean, we even had the opportunity to do this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's something he probably didn't have. But
Yeah.
that's awesome. I can only imagine that. I feel like that was such a good thing. Like
Oh,
I
it was
said before,
great.
for young
Yeah.
journalists and stuff
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so if you guys are looking for more articles, you can go visit the Centerfield website, and you can find there's some great pieces coming out this week, and the pieces will keep coming out through the end of the semester. All sports things, lots of information on the reopening of sports and when you'll see sports, opt-outs, transfers. So hop on over to the website if you're looking for some hard-hitting facts about Marist sports this year.
Yeah, and the journalists for Marist Centerfield, the students here, have been doing a fantastic job in making stories when there are no sports.
No doubt.
Like, they need to get more credit for that because it's been incredible. But also, when sports come back, I mean, there's only one place to get your Marist sports coverage, and that's going to be from Marist Centerfield. They're going to give you the good stuff. So definitely stay tuned for when sports start back up. Basketball season going to probably start in December. It's set that way anyway as of right now. And then hopefully the spring we can get Marist sports back. So definitely make sure you check out Marist Centerfield. Well, Zach, I appreciate you coming on here and giving me the lowdown on everything. That was really detailed stuff.
No
That was
problem.
in depth. I appreciate that. For everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to our episode today of Halftime on the Hudson. I hope you had a good time. I know we did.
It was great.
It was great.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for our next episode, and we'll see you around.